So Project 25 is really a 900-page document that has been funded by the Heritage Foundation. And to put it quite simple, this is a document that is not for the advancement of black people, not for the advancement of low-income people, and definitely not for the advancement of LGBTQ, those who identify as that. And so at the end of the day, this is really about how they can continue to tighten the squeeze of their conservatism on our entire country, right? This is about how you can end DEI, how you can end many of the equity policies that we have been fighting for many, many years. And quite frankly, this project is really about how do you stop the rise of black people being able to be in positions of power.
So we've got a lot to do to buttress against the attacks that the far right wages against us every day, but there's repair that we need to do right now on damage that the far right has already done, right? It's been almost a decade since a far right Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, eliminating protections for black and brown communities all over the country, and we're seeing the effects. Black voters have less access to the polls. They're showing up in less numbers. Their vote is under more threat. They are under more levels of intimidation when they show up to the polls. So we need to pass things like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act to strengthen voting rights in our country. We also need to codify Roe v. Wade legislatively. We need to raise the minimum wage federally so that one job is enough to raise a family and afford a house and provide for your kids' education and do all of those things at the same time. Americans are looking for their country and their government to be as good as its people, ambitious and caring and bold. And I think that this election, that's what voters are looking for now, and that is the type of reform both in practice and policy, but also in thought that our elected officials and those running for office need to consider this year.
We need to, one, tackle many of the banks. The banks are the ones who gives us access to the capital. And when we think about the history of being able to get a loan, it has not been in favor of black people. We can always go back, one, to the civil rights movement where we were fighting against redlining, where we weren't able to get loans to actually buy our first home. Or those who fought on behalf of this country, who look like me and you, not being able to take advantage of a GI Bill. And so, again, if we want to talk about building wealth, home ownership, building our businesses up, it's about what level of access do we have. And those banks, many of those bigger banks, because they're not owned by us, are the ones who are the gatekeepers who are stopping us from us being able to walk through that door in the first place.
You know, as a resident of the District of Columbia, where 600,000 people, almost 700,000 people, over half of which are black and brown, don't have a vote in the Senate, don't have a vote in the House of Representatives. We need power, and I know DC statehood would definitely balance democracy, but from a less selfish standpoint, and from a less hyper-local standpoint, we need to open up democracy to more people. We need to figure out how we get more people to the polls, how we get more people invested in our politics, and that means that we give people more power. It means that we expand access to the ballot, we expand early voting, we expand drop boxes, not shrink them. It means that when we have record corporate greed in the wake of COVID, that we raise the minimum wage and hold corporations accountable so that they don't take advantage of workers, disproportionately workers who are black and brown. And so there is a lot of reform that we can do right now, but in the wake of this next election, my list is full in terms of what I'm going to be encouraging every elected official to do come January when it comes to delivering on the promises they made to get us to vote for them in November.
You know, I understand why many people are not engaged and pretty cynical about the voting process. So we can always go back to the fact that when we had our first black president, people wanted to deny him his right to be in that seat, saying that he wasn't a natural born citizen of America. And I can tell you, one, voting absolutely matters. And I can say that because not only am I the youngest person to be elected to Milwaukee County Executive, but I'm the first black man, the first person of color to be elected to a seat like this. This doesn't happen when you have a lot of white folks, right? It is not to say that I don't have to go get those votes as well, but this was about how are we elevating black voices, brown voices to the table to make sure that their voices are being heard and policies are not only being changed, but to being improved to directly impact those lives. I won my seat in the middle of a pandemic by just over 1,000 votes. And if it wasn't for the people whose doors I knocked on, or the folks who live in the hood where I come from who came out and said, David Crowley, I got your back, I wouldn't be sitting here today making the incredible investments in affordable housing, working with those who have been just as impacted to find employment opportunities and build their own businesses, but also making sure that we're tackling issues like the opioid addiction and mental health, because that's affecting our community as well. And so if we want to make sure that our voices be heard, just know that your one vote absolutely matters, because there's 1,000 people that I actually had to thank.